Hey there guys, and welcome back to Dino Reviews. So with the month we are going into, I just kind of wanted to share everything I'm going to be watching horror and thriller related in April. Now guys, as always, remember if there's a movie I leave out or if there's one on this list you want to see me review, make sure guys you let me know in the comments down below. First up we have Creepshow Season 2, which will be premiering on April 1st over at Shudder with a new episode every single Thursday. Based on the 1982 horror comedy classic, the anthology series returns for a second season that I'm hoping will be just as fun as the first. This time around, guest stars include Kevin Dillon, Josh McDermott, Molly Ringwald, Barbara Crompton and Justice Long. I had a blast with the first season of this. It actually reminded me a lot of the kind of 80s and 90s horror series we used to get, like Goosebumps, Tales from the Crypt, stuff like that. It really does bring you back, and of course the original Creepshow. The series, it does have an updated budget this time around, so it'll just be interesting to see what they do with that and what new stories they finally tell us. Next up is the Unholy, which will be hitting theatres on April 2nd. This one, it does star Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a journalist investigating claims from a young girl that the Virgin Mary came to her in a vision. However, instead of bringing miracles to her town, it's going to bring destruction and chaos. This one has a brilliant cast, but Jeffrey Dean Morgan I do think will elevate the movie just a little bit more. As well as that, I'm excited to get a religious themed horror movie because we honestly haven't gotten one in quite some time. The movie, from what I can see in the trailer, it looks slick, it looks very creepy and just something different. On April 2nd, Every Breath You Take will be released in theatres and also on VOD. So this one centers around a psychiatrist played by Casey Affleck who loses a client to suicide, and then he's actually harassed and stalked by the deceased client's brother. The movie, it does look to be a very by the numbers style thriller where we have a stalker stalking this family, but at the same time it actually looks quite slick and it has an impressive cast. One thing I will say with the movie is if you can stay away from the trailer, it does give pretty much everything away about the movie and just tells you the entire plot. We also have The Power, which premieres on April 8, once again exclusively on Shudder. The movie, it's set in the 1940s London as Britain braces for an electrical blackout to sweep the country. So we follow a young nurse named Val who needs to work the night shift in an almost empty and derelict hospital. As the hours go by, Val needs to face her own past but also the dark entity that's stalking the hospital itself. Now you will see Shudder is releasing quite a lot of horror content throughout the month of April as part of their half with a Halloween event. What I like about this one is, number one, it is based in a hospital. For me, that is a terrifying environment and it always works well in horror. As well as that though, I do enjoy the idea of Val having to face her past and these demons that are around her. The cinematography on this one also looks quite impressive and the script honestly looks razor sharp. As I said, I do enjoy the setting of 1940s London and I think it'll just add a nice finishing touch to the movie. On April 9th, Neil Burger's highly anticipated sci-fi thriller Voyagers will finally hit theatres with a great cast to go with it. So we have Ty Sheridan, Lily Rose Depp, Colin Farrell and Isaac Hempstead-Wright who will be pushed to their limits as they embark on this kind of generations long journey through space and they slowly begin to lose touch with reality. Now what I like about this movie, it does kind of give us the question on what humanity will actually do to survive. So we kind of follow this crew as they're trying to make new life outside the galaxy or in space, and they're doing it through these future generations. So these future generations probably aren't going to see the next Earth, or not going to be on a planet, but preserving their life is extremely important. So the plot kind of follows these characters who are really just trying to keep these people alive, these younger generation, these teenagers if anything else, and they're suppressing a lot of their emotions. Now the younger generation of course wants to know what these emotions are and what it is to be human. So as you can imagine, conflict will definitely ensue and it will be quite interesting to see it unfold. This one, again, it looks quite slick. The script looks really interesting and really nothing like what we've seen before. I am excited about it. I love a good space style thriller, so this one could also be one to check out. Acclaimed director Chris Smith also brings us The Banishing once again to Shudder on April 15th. This one actually tells the true story of the most haunted house in England. So we follow a reverend and his family who move into this house and really discover that something isn't right. Now what I am interested with this movie is actually the reverend and his family having having to turn to dark magic and actually just kind of question their own beliefs. I think that's a really interesting story and a really good topic to dissect. From looking at the trailer, the movie looks really haunting, it looks very creepy, and it could definitely be one of the scarier movies on Shudder in April. Another Shudder release will be Boys from County Hell, which is set in a small Irish village whose only claim to fame is that Bram Stoker once spent a night and actually came up with the idea of Dracula from a local legendary vampire known as Abertha. When a controversial new road development tears down the vampire's final resting place and actually infects one of their own, a group of friends must fight back and discover the origins of the local legend. What I like about this movie is honestly it reminds me of movies like Boy Eats Girl or Grabbers. I really enjoy when we get good Irish humour mixed with horror. At times it can be really good, and if you get the balance right, it is golden. This one looks like a lot of fun. It has buckets of blood and a lot of action from what I can see in the trailer, and it just looks like a good time. April 23rd will give us the release of Separation, surrounding a young girl who deals with the death of her mother by, wait for it, taking comfort in puppets created by her father. Now when a new matriarch begins to move into the family home, these terrifying puppets begin to take on a life of their own. Honestly guys, out of everything on this list, this is the one I am most excited to see. The trailer itself looks terrifying and downright scary, but just the creature design on these kind of puppets, these ghost-like figures, is insane. I am hoping this one does well. It looks like it's going to be a very scary movie and one that a lot of people are going to be talking about. In Search of Darkness Part 2 will also be premiering on Shudder on April 26th, and once again it delves into the definitive decade of horror, the 80s. Now this one once again has 4 hours worth of footage, behind the scenes interviews with cast and crew of the different horror movies from the 80s, and of course a whole host of horror legends such as Robert Englund, Nancy Alley, Tom Savini and many more. Now if you enjoy the first documentary, if you enjoy the 80s in particular and that whole section of horror history, you will definitely enjoy this one. As for Netflix, they will be releasing a horror thriller on April 30th called Things Heard and Seen. Now honestly, not a lot is known about the movie. There is no trailer for this film. There is a very small plot synopsis, but what we do know, it is based off the novel All Things Cease to Appear by Elizabeth Brundage. The movie also stars Amanda Seyfried and James Norton, and it kind of centers around a Manhattan couple who move into a new home and soon discover that their relationship itself is quite damaged, but so is the home. Honestly guys, as I said, there's not a lot of information on this one. Time will tell how it does. Maybe we will get a trailer on Netflix and maybe it will end up being quite a good horror thriller. Finally, the last one on my list, and yes, this is not a horror or a thriller, but it is Mortal Kombat, which I think from today actually got pushed back to April 23rd, so an extra week. But honestly, I am really excited about this movie. What I love about it, of course, is that we're getting a video game adaptation of both Resident Evil and Mortal Kombat in the same year. If these movies do well, we may just get quite a lot more video game adaptations over the next 5 to 10 years. Now this one, it is based on the popular video game series Mortal Kombat, and the new movie looks very faithful to the games. There is a lot of brutality, there's a lot of blood and gore, and the story looks quite interesting. But guys, they are just some of the movies I'm going to be checking out in April. As always guys, if I left anything out or if there's a movie on this list you want me to review, make sure guys you let me know in the comments down below. Remember, as always, you can of course subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more videos like this one, you can click any of those links down below, and I will see you in the next one.